Captain Ethan Cole sat in the cockpit of his ship, the Starfare, as it glided through the asteroid belt of the Zerath 9 system. The belt was a dangerous stretch of space, filled with jagged rocks that had torn apart many less experienced pilots. Ethan, however, had faced worse. He had grown up on a mining colony near Mars, dodging falling debris and harsh dust storms, and those skills had made him one of the fleet's most reliable navigators. Yet today, there was something different in the air, or rather, in space. His ship's instruments picked up a faint distress signal coming from a small, rocky planet just beyond the belt. Strange, Ethan muttered to himself, squinting at the display. The signal was weak, broken into pieces, almost like it was being sent from an older device or a primitive transmitter. Most captains would have ignored it, assuming it was an old automated beacon. But Ethan had always believed in helping when someone was in danger, no matter the species or planet. He had a rule: no one gets left behind, whether human or alien. He adjusted the ship's trajectory, weaving carefully between asteroids. The signal grew stronger as he descended into the planet's thin atmosphere. Smoke and dust swirled below, painting the landscape in shades of red and orange. From the surface, he could see faint glimmers of movement near a jagged cliff. Something or someone was struggling. Ethan landed the Starfire on a relatively flat surface, the ship's thrusters sending up clouds of dust. As the engines powered down, a sense of calm washed over him, quickly replaced by urgency. He grabbed his survival pack and stepped onto the rocky ground. The air was breathable but carried a metallic tang that made his throat dry. Following the signal, he carefully made his way toward the cliff. The terrain was tricky. Loose rocks threatened to tumble under his boots. That's when he saw her, a small, frail figure, barely visible through the dust and smoke. She was an alien, clearly elderly, hunched over, with skin that shimmered faintly like polished stone. Her limbs were thin and her movements slow, but there was a determination in her posture that told Ethan she was fighting against something far stronger than herself. Ethan's universal translator hummed to life in his hand. "Hello, I'm here to help," he said, keeping his voice calm and steady. The alien paused, her eyes wide and luminous, reflecting the harsh sunlight. She spoke a series of strange clicks and tones, completely unfamiliar, but the translator struggled and managed a rough translation. "Help, quickly, cave." Dust choked the air, and the faint signal he had picked up was now clearer. It was coming from her small, worn communicator. Without hesitation, Ethan sprinted toward her, dodging falling rocks and debris. "Stay calm, I've got you," he shouted, grabbing her trembling arm. She looked at him with fear and trust mixed in her luminous eyes. Her movements were weak, but she leaned on him as he pulled her away from the edge. The ground shook beneath them, small landslides rolling down the cliff. Ethan knew he had only seconds. He scanned the area and spotted a narrow path leading away from the crumbling rock face. Supporting the alien woman, he ran, sliding over loose stones, his boots kicking up clouds of dust. Behind them, a loud crash echoed as a large portion of the cliff fell into a cloud of smoke. Ethan didn't look back. Every second counted. They reached a safer area, but the alien woman collapsed to the ground, exhausted. Ethan knelt beside her, checking her for injuries. She was shaking, her body frail, but no major wounds. Her breathing was uneven, and she coughed softly, her hand brushing at her chest. "Easy now, you're safe," Ethan said gently. He used the translator again, and it managed a simple message. "You saved me, thank you." Her hand moved toward a small bag she carried. He gently helped her open it, revealing a few small, glowing crystals. They pulsed softly like tiny hearts. "These are?" Ethan asked, unsure what they were but sensing their significance. She shook her head, but her eyes seemed to plead. "Trust only now." He had no idea what they were, but he felt instinctively that they were valuable and perhaps powerful. As he helped her toward the ship, he noticed movement in the shadows nearby. Small, insect-like creatures skittered along the rocks, their bodies glinting under the sun. They weren't aggressive yet, but Ethan knew from experience that hunger and curiosity could make them dangerous fast. He picked up the pace, supporting the alien woman, guiding her back to the Starfare. Every step was a careful balance between speed and safety. The creatures followed at a distance, but Ethan could see their eyes glinting like tiny emeralds. Finally, they reached the ship. Ethan set her down on the ramp, helping her inside. The cabin was cool and quiet compared to the chaos outside. He activated the medical scanner, which beeped rapidly as it analyzed her condition. "She's dehydrated, exhausted, and possibly affected by radiation from the planet's core," the scanner reported. "But vital signs are stable." She accepted, her hands delicate but steady as she sipped. The translator picked up more of her words. Name, Thrina, you saved life. She tapped the side of her head, as if signaling the importance of remembering this moment. Whatever happens, I promise I'll keep you safe, Ethan said quietly. He had no idea who she was or why she was here, but something told him this was bigger than a simple rescue mission. The ship's engines roared as he lifted off, leaving the unstable planet behind. Through the cockpit window, Ethan watched the dust settle on the cliff where he had found her. The rocks were still falling slowly, as if the planet itself was trying to erase all evidence of the danger. Thrina leaned back in her seat, closing her eyes, the glowing crystals resting gently in her lap. Ethan studied her, realizing that though she appeared fragile, there was a dignity and strength in her posture. He had saved her life, yes, but he sensed that she had a story far larger than his imagination could yet grasp. Hours passed in silence, punctuated by the soft hum of the ship's engines and the occasional beep from the monitoring instruments. Ethan occasionally checked Thrina, ensuring she was stable and comfortable. The stars outside stretched infinitely, reminding him how small one human was in such a vast galaxy, but also how much one human could do when courage and compassion guided their actions. As the ship entered orbit around a safe refueling station near the edge of luminary space, Ethan finally asked, Thrina, where do you want to go? And what dangers might await them there? Yet he knew he would follow her anywhere. He had made a promise in that dust-choked canyon to keep her safe. And as the Starfire glided into the orbiting refueling station, Ethan realized that this rescue was only the beginning. He didn't know it yet, but the universe had just handed him an adventure far larger than any he had ever imagined. A story of courage, trust, and the unexpected bonds that could form between species. He smiled quietly to himself. He had saved an alien grandmother from certain death, but somehow he felt that the real reward, the real test, was yet to come. And somehow, just somehow, it would make his jaw drop. Ethan Cole had never seen anything like it. As the Starfire descended toward the surface of Thrina's planet, a luminous world of glowing forests and floating rivers, he felt a mix of awe and nervousness. The atmosphere was thick with soft light, as if the planet itself breathed in colors and exhaled them in gentle waves. His hands gripped the controls, but his eyes were on the view outside. Trees shimmered in shades of blue and green, and strange creatures with wings like glass floated silently above the rivers. Thrina sat quietly beside him, her glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. She did not speak much, only gesturing gently toward the city they were approaching. Ethan had learned a few words from her through the translator, but communication was still slow and careful. Every word, every gesture mattered. The city rose like a dream from the forests. Towers of crystal and metal shimmered in the sunlight, twisting upward like vines reaching for the sky. Bridges of translucent material spanned between buildings, carrying what looked like glowing carts, powered by energy Ethan could not yet understand. The streets were alive with aliens of all shapes and sizes, moving gracefully, their eyes curious but cautious. Ethan guided the Starfire to a landing platform at the edge of the city. As they descended, he noticed other ships, sleek, unlike any human design, floating silently with no visible engines. The people on the platform stopped and stared, their expressions a mix of surprise and respect. One of them stepped forward, a tall figure with silver-blue skin and long flowing robes. She raised a hand in greeting. Thrina moved forward quickly, leaning on Ethan for support. Grandmother, the alien said, her voice gentle but firm. The translator picked up the words, though the sounds were still strange and melodic. Thrina's shoulders relaxed slightly. She gestured to Ethan, and the translator managed. This is the one who saved me. Not many from your species show such courage. Please come with me. There is much to discuss, and your presence here is remarkable. Hovering lights drifted like fireflies, illuminating gardens filled with plants that seemed to hum softly. Streams of water floated through the air, following invisible channels, and children played on platforms that moved like gentle waves. Ethan could feel the eyes of the city on him. He was a stranger, a human, and he knew that in most places of the galaxy, humans were considered fragile, unremarkable, or even dangerous. Yet here, in this city of advanced beauty and wisdom, he felt a growing sense of respect. The aliens were watching him, not with suspicion, but with curiosity and a hint of admiration. Thrina led him into a building that resembled a palace, though it was far different from any palace he had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, shifting colors and patterns as though reflecting the emotions of those inside. The floor was soft under his boots, almost like walking on clouds, and the air carried a faint, calming scent. Inside, Ethan was introduced to several other elders of the Luminari people. They were smaller and larger than Thrina, with colors ranging from silver to deep violet. Each spoke to him carefully through the translator. Their words were polite, formal, but their curiosity about him was clear. He realized that humans and his actions were unusual in their eyes. Saving a life without expectation of reward, acting purely out of kindness and courage, these were qualities that had impressed them deeply. Thrina spoke to them quietly, pointing at Ethan, her gestures gentle. The translator interpreted her words. "He saved me without hesitation. He deserves to see the truth of our world." He had done what any decent person would do. But here, on a planet far from Earth, his small action carried enormous weight. The elders nodded among themselves, and one of them finally spoke to him directly. "You are a human. Your kind is young in the galaxy, but I see in you something rare: courage, kindness, and cleverness. These qualities are powerful." They led him to a room filled with strange machines and glowing crystals. Ethan's eyes widened. Some devices seemed to float without support, pulsing softly with energy. Others had screens displaying star maps, showing places he had only dreamed of. He realized that the Luminari technology was centuries ahead of anything humanity had. One elder noticed his gaze. "Do not be afraid," she said. "These are tools, yes, but they are also part of who we are. Our lives, our history, our wisdom, they are contained in these objects. You may see them, but you must not touch without guidance." Thrina moved to one of the elders, who handed her a small device. She pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed cities, star systems, and worlds Ethan had never heard of. His jaw dropped slightly as he realized the scale of the civilization he had become part of, even if only temporarily. "This is our home, our galaxy," Thrina said softly. "We have lived for many generations, guarding knowledge and protecting life. But threats exist, and sometimes even the bravest must act to protect the weak." Saving her had been an act of bravery, but meeting her and seeing the world she lived in made him understand that courage came in many forms. For hours, he walked through the city with Thrina and her guides. He saw schools where young Luminari learned about the stars, libraries filled with floating books that changed language automatically depending on the reader, and gardens where plants responded to thoughts and emotions. Every corner of the city was alive with intelligence and beauty. Yet, amid the wonder, Ethan noticed caution. Thrina's family was protective, watching every movement, every interaction. He realized that he would need to be careful, gentle, and patient. They were testing him, not out of suspicion, but to see if he was worthy of the trust they were beginning to place in him. As the day faded into evening, the city transformed. The floating lights glowed brighter, and the rivers reflected colors that seemed impossible, shifting and swirling like living paintings. Ethan sat beside Thrina in a quiet garden, the glowing plants around them responding to their presence. "You have been brave," Thrina said softly, her voice carrying through the translator. "But bravery alone is not enough. Kindness, patience, and wisdom, these are the qualities that make a protector. You have shown some of these, but the world you have entered is vast and complex. You must be careful." Yet he felt a connection to Thrina, to her people, and to the galaxy itself. That night, as he rested in a guest chamber provided by Thrina's family, he thought about the journey ahead. Saving one life had led him to a civilization full of wonders and responsibilities. He knew that challenges were coming, that the galaxy was full of dangers he could not yet imagine. But he also knew that his choices, his courage, and his kindness had opened doors that no human had walked through before. Ethan looked out the window at the glowing city below, feeling a sense of purpose he had never known. The stars above seemed closer, more real, as if inviting him to take part in a story larger than himself. He understood that the galaxy was watching, that humans, though young and untested, could make a difference. And somehow, he felt that Thrina, fragile as she seemed, was the key to a future he had only just begun to glimpse. As he drifted to sleep, he made a quiet promise to himself. No matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter how strange or dangerous the galaxy might be, he would protect Thrina. He would be patient, gentle, and clever. And when the time came, he would show the Luminari that humans, though small in numbers and young in experience, had hearts capable of extraordinary courage and wisdom. The city of glowing towers slept beneath him, unaware of the tiny ripple of change a single human had created. And somewhere in the distance, Ethan knew, the first seeds of an adventure that would span worlds and species had been planted. The rescue of one fragile grandmother had already begun to shape the destiny of more than one civilization, and it was only the beginning. Ethan awoke to the soft hum of the city outside his window. The glowing lights of the luminary towers stretched across the horizon, casting a gentle shimmer over the floating gardens and streams that crisscrossed the city. He sat up slowly, stretching, but a sense of unease lingered. Something in the air felt different that morning, though he couldn't put his finger on it. He dressed quickly and stepped out into the quiet hallways of the guest chambers, where Thrina was already waiting. She seemed calm, almost serene, but Ethan noticed the faint twitch of her hand as she gestured for him to follow. He realized she was sensing something he could not yet see. As they moved through the city streets, Ethan saw that activity had increased. Luminari citizens hurried along the translucent walkways, their expressions unusually tense. Groups of guards patrolled in careful formations, scanning the crowds and the skies. Thrina leaned on Ethan's arm as they walked, guiding him through the maze of crystalline towers. "She says there is danger," the translator whispered, interpreting Thrina's thoughts. "Not for her, for all of us, you must be careful." He looked around, trying to spot anything unusual, but the city seemed peaceful at first glance. They reached a central plaza, where a large group of elders and guards were gathered. One elder, a tall figure with skin that reflected light like water, stepped forward to speak with Thrina. She spoke rapidly, and Ethan caught fragments through the translator. "Rebels planning attack soon, must protect." Thrina led him to a smaller courtyard behind the plaza. There, she gestured toward a set of stairs descending into a hidden area beneath the city. Ethan realized they were moving toward a more private place, away from the crowd. The walls were smooth, glowing faintly as they passed. She pointed at a small table where a device displayed a map of the surrounding area. Tiny lights flickered across the holographic map, representing different groups moving through the city. One cluster of lights was separate from the others, moving with purpose toward the heart of the city. Ethan recognized immediately what it meant. These were not civilians, these were intruders. "They are rebels," Thrina said softly. "They want power. They do not care who is hurt. Make them take longer routes. Maybe block entrances temporarily without harming anyone." He began planning quickly, drawing on his experiences from human colonies and space missions. He assigned areas of the city to the Luminari guards, giving each precise instructions to slow and redirect the rebels without using violence. "Remember," he said, "we don't want anyone hurt. Use clever tricks, obstacles, anything that can confuse them or make them hesitate." They had never worked with a human in such a position of strategy before, and he could sense their cautious admiration. Ethan moved with Thrina to the highest observation tower in the courtyard. From there, he could see much of the city and the edges of the surrounding forests. He watched as the first signs of movement appeared, a group of figures moving quickly and quietly, barely visible against the shimmering streets. They were definitely the rebels. Using the holographic map, Ethan guided the Luminari guards to set up barriers and diversions. Bridges were slightly lowered, creating false paths. Floating carts moved silently to block certain streets. Small drones hovered, making noise or displaying lights to mislead the intruders. Every action was designed to protect the citizens without harming the rebels if possible. As the rebels advanced, Ethan noticed their surprise. They had expected the city to be undefended or vulnerable, yet their path was constantly redirected, slowed by obstacles they did not understand. The Luminari had the technology, but it was Ethan's human ingenuity, the simple logic and unpredictability, that gave them an edge. Hours passed as Ethan coordinated defenses, moving from one vantage point to another, directing guards and adjusting strategies as the situation changed. The rebels were clever, but the combination of Luminari resources and Ethan's quick thinking kept them off balance. Every misstep they made gave the city precious time to secure its population and protect Thrina. During a brief pause in the action, Ethan took a moment to catch his breath. He glanced at Thrina, who had been observing silently beside him. Despite her age and frailty, there was a pride in her expression, a sense of trust that he found both humbling and motivating. "You are extraordinary," she said softly through the translator. "Your kind rarely shows such courage and thoughtfulness." "I'm just helping." He could feel it in the patterns of movement on the map, the way the rebels hesitated but did not retreat. By evening, the first wave of intruders had reached the outer areas of the city. Ethan's strategy worked. They were slowed, redirected, and forced to navigate confusing paths. Luminary guards blocked potential shortcuts, and Ethan used small holographic decoys to make the rebels believe they were surrounded. Yet he realized the battle was far from over. The rebels were not giving up. They were determined, organized, and ruthless. But there was something about human ingenuity that they did not expect. Ethan had grown up improvising solutions in impossible situations, and that experience now became invaluable. When a small group of rebels attempted to bypass the defenses by climbing the walls of a central tower, Ethan quickly signaled the guards to deploy soft barriers that would prevent them from ascending without causing harm. The rebels were stopped in their tracks, frustrated and confused. Ethan could see the mix of anger and respect in their eyes. Even though he was human, fragile by their standards, he had outsmarted them. Thrina watched him carefully, the translator conveying her thoughts. "You are clever, brave, and patient. These qualities make a difference. You protect not just with strength, but with thought. This is rare in our galaxy." As night fell, the glowing city lit up with 1,000 colors, reflecting off the floating rivers and crystalline towers. Ethan realized something important. The beauty of the city was not just in its technology or colors, but in the lives it protected. Every light represented someone who would have been in danger if not for their careful planning and his quick thinking. Thrina leaned on his arm as they observed the city from a high platform. "You have saved many today," the translator whispered. "Not through strength alone, but through cleverness and care. This is remarkable." Sometimes it was not the strongest who saved the day, but the one who could think, plan, and act with both heart and mind. Even as he felt relief, he knew this was only the beginning. The rebels had been delayed, but they were not defeated. More waves could come, and the city still depended on his guidance. He also sensed that the challenges would grow beyond strategy and tactics. He would need wisdom, empathy, and courage for the trials yet to come. For the first time, Ethan truly understood the words Thrina had spoken earlier. Bravery alone was not enough. Protecting life required careful thought, patience, and an understanding of the world around him. Humanity had a place in the galaxy, but only if humans acted with both heart and mind. That night, as the city settled into a quiet glow under the twin moons of Thrina's planet, Ethan remained vigilant. He watched over the city, thinking about the rebels, the Luminari, and the fragile grandmother who had started this journey. He realized that every life, every small action could ripple outward, affecting entire civilizations. Saving Thrina had been the first step. Now he had to prove that humans could contribute more than strength. They could protect, think, and inspire trust in ways no one expected. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a sense of anticipation, knowing that the rewards for courage and cleverness were not just for him, but for all of humanity. The city slept beneath him, bathed in soft light. The rebels plotted, unaware that a human had already begun shaping the outcome of events in ways they could not predict. And Ethan, tired but determined, smiled quietly. The adventure was far from over, and the galaxy was watching. The city was quiet now, bathed in the soft glow of the twin moons. Ethan Cole could feel the tension slowly leaving the streets, though he remained alert. The first wave of rebels had been successfully delayed, and the Luminari guards were returning to their posts, ensuring the citizens' safety. Despite the relief, Ethan knew that Thrina's people were watching him closely, measuring every action, every decision. He had earned their trust, but he understood that trust was fragile. One wrong move could undo everything. Thrina led him through the palace corridors, her pace slow but steady. Ethan supported her gently, mindful of her age and fragility. Every step he took, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had rescued her from danger, yes, but he was beginning to realize that the galaxy had far bigger expectations of him than he could yet imagine. They entered a large chamber, circular and open to the sky. Soft, luminescent plants curled along the edges, their tendrils gently swaying, and pools of water reflected the colors of the city outside. In the center of the chamber, a platform rose slightly from the floor, and Thrina gestured for Ethan to follow her. The translator interpreted her words slowly. "The time has come. You have earned a reward not for glory, but for courage and care. Observe and understand." Thrina reached into a small container she carried and removed a crystal that pulsed with a soft, blue light. She held it in her hands for a moment, then placed it on a pedestal that glowed as if recognizing its presence. The crystal's light spread across the chamber, illuminating a holographic display of a planet. Ethan's eyes widened as he realized what he was seeing. The crystal allowed Thrina to show him something incredible. The hologram displayed a barren planet, its surface cracked and lifeless. Then, with a series of gestures, Thrina demonstrated transformations that could be applied to the planet. Rivers appeared, flowing with water that shimmered like liquid crystal. Trees and plants grew rapidly, covering deserts and mountains. Entire cities appeared, glowing softly with life. Ethan blinked repeatedly. He had expected technology, but not this. "This is terraforming?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Thrina nodded, the translator relaying, "Yes, this is a tool of creation and care. We use it to heal worlds, to nurture life where it cannot survive on its own. It requires wisdom, patience, and compassion to wield properly. I'm just a human. I don't have the experience or the knowledge to do something like this. You understand that responsibility is greater than strength." The elders watched him quietly, their presence both supportive and measured. They had seen countless beings across the galaxy, many with great skill but little wisdom. Ethan, a human, was showing a combination they found rare: bravery tempered by caution, strength paired with empathy. Thrina guided him to a console next to the pedestal. The interface was simple, elegant, and intuitive in a way that made Ethan feel as though it was designed for him specifically. The holographic planet hovered above the table, and as Ethan touched the controls, he felt a connection, not just to the technology but to the planet itself. The system responded to his intent, but also to the care in his actions. He moved his hands slowly, experimenting carefully. A desert bloomed into green meadows. Rivers carved paths through mountains, feeding vast forests. Animals appeared, small at first, then larger, thriving as if life itself were responding to the touch of a careful hand. Ethan realized he could feel the pulse of the world, sense its fragility, and guide it toward balance. This is incredible," he said, unable to hide his excitement. "I never imagined humans could ever see or touch something like this." "That is why you are here." He learned how to manipulate ecosystems, stabilize climates, and nurture life. Every action required attention, thought, and empathy. Even the smallest gesture could have far-reaching consequences. He realized that this responsibility was not a reward in the sense of treasure or wealth. It was a test, a challenge, and a trust that humans were capable of greatness. Later, Thrina led him to a quiet garden outside the palace. The floating plants swayed gently, responding to the soft wind. She placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, her touch surprisingly warm despite her age. The translator conveyed her words, "Be gentle with her. This gift is fragile like life itself. Treat it with care, and it will serve you and your people well. Treat it carelessly, and it will fail." That night, Ethan returned to his quarters, the crystal and console safely stored under Thrina's supervision. He sat quietly, thinking about the day's events. Saving a single alien grandmother had led him to a civilization far beyond human understanding. It had introduced him to wonders that could reshape entire worlds. And it had shown him that the true measure of strength was not in weapons or armies, but in heart, mind, and care. Sleep did not come easily. His mind replayed every action, every moment. He thought about the rebels, the clever strategies that had kept the city safe, and the powerful technology now entrusted to him. He realized that the galaxy was watching, and that the future of humanity might depend not on their fleets or weapons, but on their ability to act with courage and wisdom. The next morning, Thrina returned to his quarters. She did not speak immediately, only gestured for him to follow. Ethan rose, feeling a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. Together, they walked to the city's central hall, where the elders had gathered once more. "This is a new beginning," one elder said through the translator. "Your actions have proven that humans can be trusted. You are young in experience, but not in heart. The gift you hold is a reflection of that trust. Use it wisely, and the galaxy will see what your kind is capable of." Thrina smiled at him, her expression gentle and wise. "Remember, be gentle with her. This gift, like life, is fragile, and yet in the right hands it can change everything." Humanity had been given a chance, a glimpse into the power of creation and care. And he, a simple human from Earth, had been chosen to show that even the smallest actions, guided by kindness and wisdom, could make a difference across the galaxy. For the first time, Ethan truly understood the weight of responsibility and the beauty of the reward. Saving Thrina had not just been an act of bravery. It had opened the door to a future where humans could prove themselves as guardians, protectors, and creators. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers, but Ethan knew one thing. With courage, cleverness, and care, humans could rise to meet it. And somewhere deep inside, he smiled at the thought that the simple act of saving a grandmother had led to this moment. The moment when he held the power to change worlds, not through conquest, but through the strength of heart and mind. Ethan Cole sat in the cockpit of the Starfarer, his hands resting lightly on the controls, though he hardly needed them. The stars stretched endlessly before him, glittering against the black velvet of space. He had left Thrina's planet behind, carrying with him a gift unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The crystal device, safely secured in a protective chamber, pulsed softly, almost as if it were alive. For days, he had remained quiet, lost in thought. The responsibility weighed heavily on him. The technology could heal planets, restore ecosystems, and nurture life where it had been lost. It was more than a tool. It was a symbol of trust, a test of human character. Ethan knew that if misused, it could cause harm, but he also understood its potential for good. His mind raced with possibilities, yet he reminded himself that patience and care were just as important as ingenuity. He glanced at Thrina's holographic message, which she had sent before he left. Her eyes glowed softly in the projection as she spoke. "Remember, be gentle with her. Life is fragile, but even the smallest hand can guide it to greatness. Your courage has opened a door, but your heart will determine how far you walk." Humanity had been given a chance, a rare opportunity to show the galaxy what they were capable of, not through force, but through care, thought, and courage. He had to prove that humans could rise to the responsibility. When he entered human space, he noticed the usual bustle of the fleet. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved through orbital lanes, each carrying humans, goods, and resources across the galaxy. But Ethan no longer saw these ships as mere machines. To him, they represented potential, lives that could be protected, and worlds that could be healed. Upon docking at the central human station, Ethan was greeted by senior fleet officials. They had heard of his journey, though the details remained sparse. Many assumed he had merely rescued an alien from a remote planet. What they did not know was the scale of the gift he now carried. Ethan stepped off the ship, feeling every eye on him. He kept his expression calm, even as his mind raced. The elders of the Luminari had warned him not to reveal the full power of the device too soon. It was a gift, yes, but one that required guidance and wisdom. Revealing it prematurely could cause panic, misuse, or worse. He was escorted to a secure chamber where he carefully removed the crystal device from its containment. It pulsed softly in his hands, responding to his presence. As he activated it, the holographic interface came to life, displaying planets, ecosystems, and life forms with stunning clarity. Ethan marveled at the possibilities. He could see worlds suffering from drought, planets scarred by human or natural disasters, and ecosystems teetering on the brink of collapse. He took a deep breath, remembering Thrina's advice. Be gentle. Every movement, every choice had to be deliberate. He began experimenting on a small, uninhabited planet first, restoring its barren lands into lush forests, rivers flowing freely once more, and animals returning to their habitats. He felt a deep satisfaction as he watched life flourish, understanding that this was what true responsibility felt like. News of Ethan's mission spread slowly through the fleet. Initially, people were skeptical. Humans were young in space, and few believed they could handle such advanced technology. Some were wary, others curious, but all eyes turned to him as the first successful restoration was completed. Reports came back. The planet's atmosphere stabilized, vegetation thrived, and wildlife returned. It was a small beginning, but it was proof that humans could rise to the challenge. Ethan knew that the device's power was not infinite. It required precision, care, and understanding of each ecosystem. He began teaching a select group of scientists and engineers how to use it responsibly, carefully guiding them through the principles of empathy, patience, and observation. Mistakes were minimized because Ethan emphasized thinking before acting, understanding before altering, and compassion before ambition. As weeks turned into months, Ethan oversaw the restoration of several worlds. Entire communities watched in amazement as barren landscapes transformed into fertile lands, bringing hope and life to places that had seemed doomed. The Luminari had entrusted humanity with something remarkable, and Ethan was determined not to let that trust be misplaced. Yet the journey was not without its challenges. Not every planet responded easily to the device. Some ecosystems were fragile, requiring delicate adjustments and constant observation. Ethan had to make careful decisions, balancing human needs with the natural balance of each world. The process taught him patience in ways he had never imagined. Every success was rewarding, but every near mistake reminded him of the responsibility he carried. Despite the challenges, humanity began to change. People saw the results of Ethan's work and realized that power, when guided by thought and care, could do incredible good. Greed and ambition gave way to curiosity, cooperation, and empathy. Humans had proven themselves capable of more than survival. They could nurture, protect, and inspire. One evening, as Ethan worked in his chamber, he received a message from Thrina. Her holographic form appeared, glowing softly, her expression gentle. "You have done well. Humanity shows courage, care, and wisdom. Remember, this is only the beginning. The galaxy watches, and your actions will inspire generations. Be patient and continue to be gentle." Humans, though young in the galaxy, had begun to leave their mark in ways that mattered. As months passed, Ethan continued his work, traveling from planet to planet. Each restoration brought new lessons, new challenges, and new opportunities for growth. He taught humans to observe, listen, and understand each ecosystem before acting. He emphasized patience, empathy, and care, ensuring that the technology would be used responsibly for generations to come. During one mission, Ethan returned to Thrina's planet. The elders greeted him warmly, proud of his accomplishments. Thrina herself approached, leaning on her cane but smiling brightly. "You have honored our gift. You have shown that your kind is capable of greatness. Remember always that strength lies not in what you can do alone, but in what you do with thought, heart, and courage. Humans are young, yes, but your hearts are strong. Continue with care, and the galaxy will know the value of your kind." The device was powerful, yes, but its true strength lay in the hands of humans who chose to act wisely and kindly. He understood now that humanity's unexpected strength was not in technology, weapons, or numbers. It was in their courage, their empathy, and their willingness to act when it mattered most. Humans could inspire trust, build alliances, and create life where none existed before. That was the true meaning of HFY, humanity, yeah, not for dominance, but for hope, courage, and care. Ethan smiled quietly as he watched the stars pass by. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers and wonders, but he no longer felt small or unprepared. Humanity had a place, and he had proven that even one human could make a difference. The gift from Thrina was more than technology. It was a lesson, a symbol, and a responsibility that would guide him and his people into a new era. He thought back to the first moment he had seen Thrina, fragile and frightened in the dust-choked canyon. He remembered the fear, the urgency, and the decision to act without hesitation. That small choice had rippled outward, shaping not just one life but countless lives across species and worlds. It was a reminder that courage, kindness, and wisdom could create change far greater than strength or skill alone. Ethan's journey was far from over. The galaxy still held mysteries, challenges, and opportunities. But he knew that with careful thought, compassion, and courage, humans could rise to meet them. They could heal worlds, inspire trust, and leave a legacy of hope that would echo across the stars. And somewhere, far away, Thrina smiled, knowing that a human had not only saved her life, but had also begun to show the galaxy the true potential of her species. The fragile grandmother, saved by a simple act of courage, had given humanity a chance to shine in ways they could never have imagined. Ethan leaned back in his seat, eyes fixed on the infinite horizon. He thought of all the planets he had helped, all the lives that had been touched, and all the lessons yet to come. A smile tugged at his lips as he whispered quietly, as if speaking to the stars themselves, "We will be gentle, we will be careful, and we will make the galaxy proud." And for the first time, Ethan knew with certainty that humanity's story had only just begun, written not in conquest, but in courage, care, and the unexpected strength of one simple, brave human heart.